So, on the intervening night of 26th and 27th of June, a drone dropped explosive devices on the Jammu air base, which was a major security breach. And ever since then, there have been multiple sightings of drone near the military camps in Jammu as well. Now, these incidents, how we see it, have made one thing very clear, that the high-tech terror poses a serious threat to India and the national security. Now, to discuss this in detail, we're in conversation with Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General of Infantry. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time and speaking to me. Sir,
thank you.
To begin with, how much of a threat are these unmanned aerial vehicles or drones? And the way I see it, if the drones can be used to drop explosives in an army area or an air force area, it can very well target public spaces, be it theaters, malls, etc. How much of a threat is it?
Well, this is indeed a real threat. Reason is very simple. See, primarily what has happened is we have been able to manage and control the human infiltration.
Yes.
And since that was tremendously under control, and the Pakistanis went in for wanting to say that, well, in February, that we will also ensure the ceasefire agreement of 2003, and therefore there would be no ceasefire violations.
Yes.
And now, when the ceasefire violations are not taking place, the human infiltration is not taking place as much as they would have expected it. And virtually there has been quite a grand success on that front, because there is no ceasefire violation, because invariably they would push militants when the firing was on. And that also has one more connotation to it. Whenever there is a ceasefire violation, they fire from one, and instant you are firing from the other side. And therefore, you find that it's only the people staying along the LOC who are affected.
Yes.
Not the ones who are deep inside. Now, with this kind of a threat which has now developed, which is now the drone infiltration, I would call it the drone infiltration, which is unmanned. Now, what happens is all UAVs are drones, but not all drones are UAVs. The UAVs have a different connotation, the drones have a different, of course, both of them are unmanned, but a different connotation. So these are the smaller things which are also available off the shelf. Now, this kind of a threat is something which we should have envisaged, and I'm sure we would have envisaged at our level, because what has happened is, of late, you would have seen for about little more than a year or 2 years, they've been dropping weapons, they've been dropping drugs, they've been dropping ammunition, they've been dropping currency. So all that was going on. See, if those drops could take place, obviously ID drops can also take place. So there was nothing that was, we should not have visualized or this also. Except that one doesn't expect a nation which is looking for wanting to improve relations with India and has also wanted to ensure that, we will not have ceasefire violations, we look for something better that's coming up. And Pakistan also under pressure to see to it that they are they're moving quietly into Afghanistan without creating ripples. The US being pulled out. They don't want any kind of past struggle taking place in Afghanistan, and they feel that the Taliban there would be looking towards Pakistan, and it would be Pakistan's virtual proxy affair, which would be on in Afghanistan. Under these circumstances, doing this, probably the Pakistanis have conveyed it in one certain term that be what it is, they will continue to use terrorism as an instrument of state policy. All those talks, everything, it can be at one end, but now you hear kind of statements coming from Imran Khan that, well, until and unless 370 is restored, they are not going to be talking to India. One thing they've been saying again and again. You find that voices from the valley also saying, no, delimitation, 370, talk to Pakistan. So there has been some kind of, things which are not very, very conducive to the way we are. So you find the valley politicians also leaning towards that end. You find that the Chinese have also kind of a thing on the eastern Ladakh. There is like a stalemate which is going on there. Now, despite the stalemate over there, not much of a headway. The disengagement process started, but after that it has got stuck. The talks will take place. All said and we find that in this entire scenario, you can do feel that the Chinese are also playing a role along with the Turks, with the Pakistanis, with the view to be able to put as much pressure as they can on India. And what better after the Azerbaijan and Armenia, where the Armenians were equipped with Turkish drones, Israeli drones in such a big way that they have the technology available with them. And of course, Pakistan is economically not very, very well off. But Pakistan is all that it is doing is only providing a space, a place wherein the funding and the equipment is coming from these countries. Either the Turks or the Chinese who are funding it. So it is suiting, it's a win-win situation for Pakistan.
Yes.
And at the same time, the ISI seems to be playing, obviously, you have ISI as an entity by itself, and in conjunction with the army and also dealing. So the ISI in league with China, in league with Turkey, have decided that, well, we will see to it that the pressure is on India. And as much as Pakistan has virtually become a surrogate state of China, China insisting on Pakistan that put pressure on India, see to it that whatever you can do, funding is what the Chinese is short. In that context, I thought that there was some kind of a drone control, setup which had come up opposite the Indian post of Chak Fakira. Now, since the drone control center had come up over there, which had nothing else, it was primarily manned by the ISI for surveillance and to ensure that they could use areas like Jammu, Samba, Kathua, Hiranagar, all these areas, they were keeping it under surveillance and to see to it what they could do. Because this is all along the ISI, which was happening. Now, that drone control system which was keeping India under surveillance in all these areas were also ensuring that this belt which is there is under their surveillance, number one. Number two, it could be utilized for dropping of weapons, it could be utilized for dropping of ammunition, it could be used for dropping of drugs, narcotics, money, whatever. Now, with that in place, and simultaneously also, almost 30 odd camps had come up in the POK. And all those camps of these terrorists which are coming up in the POK, the Pakistan had been tasked by China, look, recruitment of the militants, the indoctrination of the militants, and the training of the militants is your responsibility. Funding and equipping them is our responsibility. So the Chinese take on the funding and Chinese take on equipping. That's what Pakistan is weak at. Because economically, Pakistan cannot sustain that. So now we find that it's a win-win situation for Pakistan. Pakistan suddenly finds that within the valley, after the talks with the Prime Minister, there seems to be some ice being cut, and as a result of which the valley politicians seem to have mellowed down. They are not talking that aggressive language as one was expecting. Or the Pakistanis were expecting that they would suddenly be going there and virtually boxing with the Prime Minister to say no, this is what, and it didn't happen that way. So nothing is actually going the Pakistani way, the way Pakistan would have expected. And even the Pakistani newspapers have also said that the valley politicians seem to be only interested in power. And that since they only want power in the union territory of J&K, which they wanted to be converted into state and remain in power. So they're all power hungry, and therefore the cause of the Kashmiris seems to have been given up by them, and that they should now take the onus and responsibility for fighting for the Kashmiri cause. So I think somewhere down the chain, and again that incident where that Hafiz Saeed's house also in Johor town in Lahore, but bombed, also was playing at the back of their mind. No, they have not said anything, but I know they must be feeling, no, it is the Indians only who would have done it. As always it happens, no, it is the Indian hand. So again, those two terrorists who were caught in Jammu also were supposedly Lashkar affiliated, caught with RDX. They also would have given obviously some hint. Now the NI investigations will also prove that there is some. So there is a Pakistani linkage has been reasonably established in this entire game. Now, if Pakistani linkage has been established, now why would Pakistan want to do? Obviously, now they have found that even 2 drones on the day of the tactical area, thereafter again at Kaluchak, again at Ratnuchak, none of them have been grounded, none of them have been brought down. So obviously Pakistan will say, now you are always blaming us, show us the proof. Show us where are they Pakistani. So you find that we are in the investigating stage and you are looking at it. All this confusion is helping the militant organizations in Pakistan. It is helping Pakistan to have their own narrative that see unnecessarily we are being blamed. It is all, I don't know who is doing it in India, but we are not doing it. Whereas it is very clear from the kind of drones that have come in, from the kind of, you would say, the quality of the drone that has been flown in, the endurance of the drone, the range of the drone, the capacity of the drone to bring in explosives, the ability to drop and be able to pull back with the remote control that the Pakistani operators are doing at their side of the IB. So all that is very, very clear that it's Pakistan. And therefore, question that you said, how serious is this threat?
Right.
I think extremely serious. If you ask me, extremely serious. Because the ceasefire violations affected the people along the LOC. And there was instant, you opened up with, they opened up with RT, you opened up with RT, and therefore the firing was instant. And whatever that, obviously the people along the LOC could not sleep properly. Their houses and properties were damaged. But here you find that the terrorism thing is now moved a little bit interior. Now the people along the LOC might sleep well, but now this other population of this thing, and again now targeting the Hindu population. I would even put it this way, that earlier it was some along the LOC whom they felt were not along with them and were being bombarded, and therefore it didn't affect them. But now they are targeting yet another population in Jammu, Hiranagar, Samba. No, this is another thing, so as to ensure that there are frustration levels here go as high as they can. And obviously, as I see, their game plan is how to frustrate India, how to demoralize India, how to see to that Indians are put under tremendous amount of pressure economically by COVID. We've obviously been very, very badly hit economically. Now you find even this way also. So, and again, within the country also you find there are voices, or different kind of voices. You don't find the entire nation standing up against a country or standing up against something to say that, here it is, they are our enemy and here we stand as one. But you find that every day, whatever we see on television, in kind of debates that go on the newspaper, the media that report, doesn't seem to be showing that there is at least unity within the nation on a certain aspect. There is division. There are divisions. Everybody will say, they're looking London talking Tokyo, that kind of a thing, that kind of a impression one gets, that everything is not hunky-dory as what would at least when it comes to national security, the nation should stand united. That unity is not seen as what we would want to be seen as. Is that, yes, when the nation is under threat or the nation is under so much of pressure from the adversaries, not just one, but two of them, and slowly and steadily you find China is also building the other small nations around India also, making them look anti-India. Under these circumstances, at least, we should have shown to our adversaries that, look, whatever we are, as a nation, we stand united. You try and do something wrong to us, the whole of us are going to get against you. But that is not being seen. I'm sure, as what one can, generally get a feel, and even in debates that you see, everybody will say, we are them, we are with them, but this is not, but that is not being happening. So it is indicative, and this kind of ambiguity is being exploited by Pakistan and China also. So you find this ambiguous situation in which they find that the government is under pressure from within also. Let's exploit that. So this is also a very sad situation. And then again, when you have this kind of drones coming and going back, if probably we had some kind of a anti-drone measures or counter measures to it, where any drone that crossed the IB was shot instantly. At least that would have also given a kind of a morale boosting, that anything that can, even if a fly or a bird also decide to enter from that end, will be shot down. So to achieve that level of detection, to that level of destruction of the enemy drones, we have yet to achieve. Of course, the DRDO is working on it. The others are. These technologies are available, but it's a very, very, I would put it, this thing, it's not easy. It's very easier said than done. How come their drones can come in? Don't you have eyes to see the drones are coming in? It's not so simple. Because after all, detecting them with the help of the radars, and those radars detect aircrafts, those radars detect helicopters flying at great heights are there. Whereas these are low flying objects. So they just cover at tree level. The one that came into India is about 1.2 kilometers high. It can get into that gray zone and just be moving around. It has the loitering capability. It has surveillance capabilities. It has the ability from the controller over there to drop wherever. If it can give you pizzas at home, and if it can deliver beer to you at home, then it can deliver this also at a place of their choosing. So these technologies exist, and very, very cheap technology. These are not things that are very, very expensive. Probably a drone that comes in may cost about 70,000 or 80,000 or maybe a lakh and a half. That's all. So people have that kind of money to create chaos. They have that kind of money to create a kind of confusion and a kind of, everybody beating, everyone will say, yeah, you people are complacent, or you people are not very alert to what is happening. It isn't so. It's not as easy as one seems to think. Because, even if you jam, you find that jamming their drone, you tend to have your equipment also jammed simultaneously on the same radio frequencies. Then when you're doing other means of, you could have acoustic sensors, you could have optical sensors, you could have radio frequency analyzers, you could have radars which detect only the drones or birds or whatever that be. It takes time to put up this thing. And I'm sure what has happened, and as luck would have it, I would say, as luck would have it, and thank God, there has not been a damage. It is a wake-up call. A wake-up call in which the drones have come and have gone back. Good enough. It would have been better had we brought down one or two of them to be able to analyze it further. But with the NI investigating it and the other investigating agencies, I'm sure things will fall in place. But definitely a wake-up call. Definitely the need to be extremely vigilant and to be careful that, yes, the ground infiltration also has to be stopped. And so much so, these eyes in the skies also need now to be blinded, and so that they do not enter or do not dare to enter. And that is only possible, as I feel, if the cost and consequences on the adversaries, whoever it may be. If a militant organization is attempting to do it, it should be quick. That means before they tend to celebrate in wherever house they are in, they get another attack right there to say that, well, the cost is so high. The vigilance is so high, the monitoring of these people is so high that they know it, that they can't get away with it. If that can be achieved by us, I think that itself will be a big deterrence. And we will not find any drone infiltration, we will not find any human infiltration, because they know. You found that after the Balakot strike, quite a bit of peace prevails, because they know the cost and consequences of what, if they intend doing it, what is going to be the consequence of it. Similarly for drone also.
Right.
It's only a rooftop which has got a hole into it. But imagine that RDX 2 kgs, 3 kgs which has made that hole. What if it had fallen on an aircraft? What if it had fallen on a helicopter? What if it had fallen on a runway? What if it had fallen on some building where troops were living? It would have been absolutely disastrous. You would not have known what has hit us, and would have led to, again, a problem which is difficult. As it is, we are down with COVID and we are down with other hassles. And now we have another one which is coming up. So I think it's time, it's a wake-up call. We should all be talking in one language when it comes to national security. And we must have our counter-drone measures in place. We must be extremely vigilant with our eyes and ears open, both on the ground and in the air, so that we can avoid such incidents in future.
Right. I think you've made some very important points, and absolutely, I mean, we have these conversations and these reports about an urgent need for an anti-drone technology. But as you said, it's very difficult to sort of implement it so quickly and get everything done and ensure that no drones are hovering outside. But at the same time, as you mentioned, the DRDO system and a lot of other systems that are underway that have not been produced on a mass scale. Now, do you think there has been a delay? Or were we waiting for such an incident to happen? Because this terror in sky, what we call it, is going to continue definitely. So how long should we wait, or how urgent is the need to sort of get in the right technology to tackle this?
I think this particular aspect, I think it's in our blood. It's in our DNA. We don't seem to be proactive. We are reactive. Right. And we all that this kind of thing is happening. You see the ISI do it. You see it in Afghanistan.
Exactly.
You see Hamas in Israel has been happening. So it is not that you've seen Soleimani, no, not a not a drone, but a UAV which have hit him. You've seen what happened in Saudi between the Saudis and the Aramco incident which has occurred over. So we all know what's happening. And this kind of a thing is, the research has been on. After all, not that anybody in India is sleeping. They're also working at it. But the technology that we would be wanting it our own technology. No, not directly import from Israel or directly import from US or Russia and then establish it. And then you find that somewhere down the thing, the codes got leaked out or the equipment may not really work the way we want to work. Because every equipment, at least in the field of security, must have Indian characteristics. There is no denying. Even the Rafale which has come with Indian characteristics. And it is very, very essential. You cannot share these kind of things with the world. And why not develop your own? We have the ability. I've seen working with these people, tremendous capability, but like you rightly said, this kind of a thing. Why not be ready with it? You have to be in this field, minimum 3 steps ahead of them. They must not put us to think later. We should be making them to think, if they decide to do like this, they should be saying, no, these people already have that counter here. So we cannot do this. No, let's do this. No, this is. So we should be playing a game of chess. Wherever they do, check. Wherever they do, check. To achieve that, I think maybe the Prime Minister has been... I find he's a one-man army who seems to be screaming, shouting, Atmanirbhar, but nothing seems to be moving in the manner in which, with that josh with which we should be moving. Is to say that, yes, we really need in technologies, these are not very, very expensive technologies, but it requires a whole lot of effort to apply our brains that, yes, this is what they have. This is the local, these are all briefcase drones. You can just carry it in your briefcase quietly and, go on top of a terrace, just assemble it over there and let it take off. It takes off with a thing and then the control is in your hand. You're flying it up to 15 kilometers, 10 kilometers. So you just stand on top of a hillock till you see you have binocular and you have a means to see where it is going. You have a small screen on which you are monitoring where it is going. It's your own mobile, which is all smartphones on which you can again have them, do what you want it to do. So everything is there. Only thing is what you rightly said. We are a little, chalta hai, that attitude has to come out of us. This chalta hai attitude is what is sapping us or killing us or not showing us in good light. Whereas the capability exists. We have tremendous people with good brains. Money is not a problem. If somebody says money is a problem in matters of security, money is not a problem. And today it's only 2 or 4 drones. What if there was a swarm of drones? You suddenly found little thing like you have this Tiddi invading us from the Middle East and coming from Rajasthan. They're like locusts. They just could become like locusts tomorrow. You can have hundreds of them coming in. And even if you shoot down 90, there's still 10 left to cause the destruction that they were supposed to cause. So we have to be vigilant. We have to see to it that anything like this can happen. A swarm doesn't mean just 10, 15 or 20. It could be small drones, which are large in number, and where will you keep firing? Now, even these ones which came to Kaluchak or Ratnuchak, I'm sure people would have fired, but it did not hit them, it did not come down. So therefore, it requires a lot of training, it requires a lot of ability to detect, it requires the ability to destroy, it requires material to ensure that they are detected and destroyed at the same time. So everything has to fall in place. I hope and I'm sure, and not only I hope, I'm sure people would have been working at it, and they would all be at it to ensure that, especially places now like what Russia did. Russia blew up an ammunition dump of the Ukraine in something like 2016 or 17 or that. So these kind of things can happen, and these kind of things can happen. We also have things along the IB, we also have things along the NOC, India and Pakistan. So Amritsar is so close. You have Jammu, which is so close. You have big towns that are so close to the Pakistan border. Anything means when you have decided to say that Pakistan has decided that India is our enemy. We cannot be saying that, no, they're good people. Of course, the people are good. There's no denying the fact. But the government is not good. The government which has to be dealt with. And therefore, we must see to it that they are our enemy and we must deal with them in the same fashion. If it doesn't happen, so be it. Damn good. But we must be prepared to prevent and not thereafter work on it. We should be prepared, 100% preparation to prevent an incident, not allow them to happen. And then you find that the other party, when you deal with somebody from a position of strength, you will find that the other person will buckle and be talking to you. Why do you think the Chinese spoke to us? The Chinese spoke to us and vacated in Penangso because Kailash heights were right with us, and we were breathing down their neck. If you're breathing down their neck, obviously he will come on his knees and also be talking to you. So this kind of the ability to be able to get into a position of strength at all times is what is required. And I think that maybe over a period of time, we should be able to manage it.
Absolutely. I think you've made very crucial points. Somehow even I agree, sir, that, our inability to stand up against an enemy and our inability to focus on things like Atmanirbhar Bharat has definitely been a disadvantage to us. It has backfired because all of us have not together come up and stood against the country or the enemy, definitely. Can we say that barbed wire, sentry posts and high walls are things of the past, and now that we have to replace all of this with, the technology, the right kind of technology, because now, as you said, our enemies or our terrorists, as of now, are a step ahead of us. They definitely know how to, use unmanned vehicles and not get caught in the act and ensure that the target is also targeted. So how do you think can we prevent that?
Everything is important. The barbed wires are equally important.
Right.
You got to have everywhere, all feet on the ground, important. You have to ensure that the unmanned things also have to be taken care of. That's very, very important. And the new threats that can be visualized are also equally important.
Right.
Because when technology is moving, after all, these people got this mentality of wanting to destroy somebody. It's now, you call it an ideological warfare, or you call it any kind of a warfare. Now, in the one in which you have decided that so and so is my enemy, and when you said so and so is my enemy, they're hell bent to destroy you. Now we have to ensure whatever our approach in life may be of peace and tranquility and being good to neighbors and talk, everything is in place. No problems at all. It's a damn thing. It's very essential. You cannot, after all, we're a democracy. We have a rule of law. We cannot afford to be totally going berserk. We have to ensure that everything falls in place as per the rules of law. But everything is important. We cannot get complacent. I personally feel we cannot get complacent. We must move along with and be able to learn from others also.
Yes.
Because these people are also learning from others. What Hamas can do to Israel, we must be able to understand that, well, imagine the kind of things that could happen there. The Israelis didn't suffer as much loss as the others had, because they created an underground shelter, they had their iron dome in place and that thing in place. They may not have said what they had, but they had in place. That is why the destruction wasn't as high as the kind of bombing that was done on Israel. The resultant destruction or damage wasn't as high as what the other party suffered. So therefore, we must be vigilant on all counts. Everything is important. Even we carry our dogs in the battlefield. They are as important as anybody else. So we have carried mules in a way to administer ourselves. They're as important. Somewhere you find human intervention is very essential. Somewhere you'll find unless you can't say that, well, I'll sit in the room and be watching everything on the television screen and be able to see everything what is going on like a mall. No, the sentry standing outside has to be standing there. He has to be vigilant. He cannot afford to think, I will be told on a small little thing put into my ear by my commander from the rear, अरे दाहिने को देखना कोई आ रहा है क्या? No, that is just confirming, because he himself should be looking in that direction, and now somebody tells him from behind to look in that direction. That means now he's confirming to what his eyes are seeing, that yes, there is something happening there. So all these are very, very important, and all of us who are into this field have to be very careful, have to be extremely vigilant. I can't think of complacency at any stage of time. Nothing should deviate us from our task at hand, which is there at that point of time. And therefore, I would say nothing. We can't say, no, just because the UAV is there or the drones are coming, what can I do? No, I can't see it because it gets mixed up with the bird. It comes at night. It doesn't have a light. It doesn't have a blink. So just because I can't. No, I like to find ways and means of putting on sights at night and thermal sights at night and see to it that I can now visualize it. I can see maybe 500 meters from me, maybe I can see up to 700 meters from my side. So my eyes, which at night can only see up to 50 meters or 75 meters, I can now see 500 and 750 meters. So we'll find ways and means. But man is important. Man on ground, and man on ground is important, and his importance grows with his understanding of what can happen and what he should prevent it from happening. So all of us, right from that boy sentry who's standing there to the commanders who are up there, all of them are as important as anybody else is. So if the political leadership is there to say that do it, the administrative, the military is there prepared to do it, everybody should be on the same page. There's no question. The whole nation, I would say everybody in the country today must be a soldier. Some with weapons, and all those without weapons, we also be able to teach a lesson to the adversary by not buying their goods or not subscribing to their things. So you find that the others can hit them economically, the military can hit them militarily. So you find that everybody in some form or the other is targeting the enemy. And the enemy realizes that it appears now everybody in this nation seems to have gone against them. So they are also worried. The soft power also makes a lot of difference in the hard power. And they find that the reputation is now going from bad to worse. It's not just in this one country, but the other countries which look up to this country also seem to be thinking bad about us. So our goods are not being sold. We are also finding it difficult. Our tourists are not being welcomed. You know, people are not looking at us from the point of view, they're seeing us as adversaries. So you find that you're not comfortable. And you are able to create that situation primarily because of your strength. And that is what is very important.
Absolutely. Very important points. I think definitely all of us are soldiers. And as you mentioned, we need to be one step ahead of our enemy. And definitely there's no lack of capability or knowledge or ability to hunt down drones or fight the enemy, definitely. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time and explaining this entire thing to us. It was very insightful. Thank you.